Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Song of the Month. Today's class is featuring What Child Is This? But I'm not going to open up with a song. I'm going to open up with a different song just for fun. I got to curl my music, so my pages don't fall off. I thought I'd open up with an upbeat version of White Christmas. Many of you have heard this version. And if you have ever seen the movie Home Alone, it's featured in the movie, but it actually came out years ago. And there's a scene where the young boy is shaving, and in the background they have White Christmas. They have White Christmas being performed by a group called the Drifters. And so if you ever look them up, you'll hear this version. So let me put on the Drifters version of White Christmas. The style I'm using is called Doo-Wop Delight. So if you want something similar, if you don't have this style, I probably would, let's see. I would probably use anything that's has vocal sounds or what have you. So, let me put on the right sound here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah. Let's see. All right, here we go, folks. Ooh, I think I'm doing it in the wrong key. Let me do it. Let me transpose it up to this one. Here we go. One more time. Take two. Wow, that's some serious applause. I could hear you all the way from Florida and Canada and everywhere. Yeah, aren't they great? All right. Well, folks, today I am featuring the song White Christmas. And I'm going to put up something. White Christmas. What child is this? I just played White Christmas. It's a good thing. And now I know that you're all officially paying attention to me. All right. Let's see. Let me pull up, first of all, I'm going to pull this up. Here's a little history. I don't know if you can read that. The lyrics by English insurance executive and occasional poet. I bet you knew this already. And if you didn't, you're going to leave here with a wealth of knowledge. Poet William Chatterton Dicks, written around 1865, are quite good, but it is the exquisite English folk melody, also known as Greensleeves. Many of you knew that. It's the same melody, which makes this carol exceptional. Greensleeves, which has been wrongly attributed to King Henry VIII, was most likely created during the second half of the 16th century, about the time of Shakespeare and Queen Elizabeth I. That was taken out of one of the Christmas books. Now, I don't know what you're going to do with that information, but next time you're out and about and you're talking to people, you can just act like you really know your stuff about this song. Maybe charge people for it, too. So, you guys are looking at the screen there. I'm going to flash this back up in a minute. You'll see that the setup information, folks, this is going to be up on our Patreon site. And I'm going to have two setup versions. One is going to be what I call a basic setup, and one is going to be a more intricate setup or advanced for those who really like to dive into the features of the instrument. So you'll see A1 on the left has, about 6 or 7 different things to start off with. And if you look on the right, the very first page is virtually the first setup if you go in detail. Now I'm going to pull this back up in a minute, okay? Now, the music you have, if it printed out properly, sometimes the printers don't do it. Oops, did I put the right one up there? Do you see the music on the screen, Sue? Okay. All right. Let me kind of go through this here. Here's what's cool about this arrangement is even though I have them spaced symmetric, and they're kind of set up symmetrically, so essentially I play the song 3 times. These presets are designed that if you set these presets on your instrument, you don't have to go in order. You could just kind of do it however you want, and I'll show that to you a little bit later. But the first setup starts here, okay? And you play it through, and you're basically going to play the song 3 times through, is the simple answer. So you start off with setup number 1, and you go through until you get to setup number 2, and then you get through and you get to setup number 3, and then you're done, and then you repeat, okay? And then when you go back to the beginning and start all over, and you do setup 4, setup 5, setup 6. And then you do it again, and then you do setup 7, you do setup 8, and then you do setup 9. Pretty simple. Now, a lot of times when I play the song, I change the setups however I want. In other words, I might play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the first time around and just plug them in anywhere I want. That's the beauty of these presets. It doesn't matter. The one thing I would encourage if you do it this way that I'm telling you is at the very end, you want to end up with the 9th preset, okay? Now, at the very end, if you have this printed out, I made a little notation here, and you'll see for the ending, it says when finished, let me zoom in on this, repeat the last 4 measures. That means from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, repeatedly, and then gradually press the presets backwards. So as I'm playing this, at some point I'm going to push 9, then maybe 8, then 7, then 6, then 5, until I get to number 1. And I'll explain that again a little bit later. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to put this up on the screen here. All right. So can you see that okay? Now on the left-hand side, you'll see the basic setup. I'm not going to go into the detail of the right side, the advanced setup, but I will explain it to you. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to basically do the left-hand side, and here's what I did. And I'm going to walk you through it. Now what I did is every setup you see in there, like I've done in the past, is I'll set it all up, then I save it on a preset. Then set it up, save it on a preset. Set it up, save it on a preset. Okay? So the first setup, first thing I do is I transpose it down to B flat. If you have it. And if you don't, I played it one time through without in B flat and it sounded good if you don't have a transposer. Okay? Then I find the style. The style is called lullaby. Now, I'm assuming most of you have the style lullaby. If you don't, it's a waltz style. It's an actual waltz style specifically titled lullaby. Okay? And when you put on lullaby, now pay very attention to this because I know there are two separate groups of owners in most cases. You either have the EX series or the EY, and there's some of you that have the A series. It's rhythm preset, normal rhythm preset 0. Doesn't say this on the screen there. Or on the Marquis, Grand Marquis, Aria, Inspire, and Rialto, you'd want to push vintage style setup 0. Okay? And that's a good way to get that first setup set up, and I'll tell you why in just a bit. Okay? So I just start off with what comes up. Now this is the way this normally sounds, and it is pretty as it is, but if I don't do any other changes and you just play the song, this is a gorgeous rhythm for it. Okay? And sometimes I'll actually use that introduction and then I'll switch to my presets. Okay? But the arrangement that I'm doing today, the next thing it says is basic or Genie only. So depending on the organ you have, you want to turn off the Orchestra Plus. So that's what I'm doing. I'm pressing off the Orchestra Plus. So that's the first thing. It says drum volume 0. I wrote the number and I spelled it out. Now, how do you do that? I'll put this back up in a second, folks. Real simple. You go to your drum volume over here. It just simply says drums. And you just turn that down all the way till you get to there's no lights lit up. So no drummer. So as of right now, this is what we have so far. Well, that's getting kind of cute there, isn't it? But there's another thing I did. And let's see here. Let me pull it back up on the screen so you could see it.
Robert?
Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is this going to be on Patreon? Because I'm trying to write it down. And
Yes, it will be.
Oh, okay, thanks.
But take notes now so that way until it gets
sure.
up there you have something to work with.
Right.
Okay?
Okay,
This,
thank
by
you.
the way, this is going to be flashed on the screen quite a bit.
Okay.
The left side, you'll notice the left side, after the first setup, look at all the others. It's just like add this, no change. And then the advanced settings is over here if you want to do it, okay? So I'll have this up too. All right, so I transpose to B flat. I put on the rhythm lullaby. If you don't have lullaby, use a waltz style, the tempo of 98. Basic or Genie only, depending on the organ you have. If you have a Liberty or any A series, Sterling, Patriot, Prestige, SU series, you have a Genie button. You want to turn off the Orchestra Plus, basically. I guess when I update this, I'll put, actually, I'll do it right now. Turn off Orc Plus. So if you do that, essentially, it will, I think my thing got all shifted there. Give me a second here. Oops. Computers. There we go. This went away. Essentially, if you just turn off your Orchestra Plus, let me do this so I don't lose my, okay. It'll have that on. Then drums at 0, and then it says auto bass off, and I just put here basically no bass. Okay? On the upper, you want to program a pan flute solo or a pan flute. And on the lower right, look very closely here. For your lower right keyboard, I actually played the first part of the song one time through on the lower right. I have a flute and a theremin at an octave down, and then I have either the portamento or the slide feature. Depending on the organ you have, they call it two different things. So the Marquis, Grand Marquis, it'll be easier for me to say this. The Marquis, Grand Marquis, and Aria, Rialto, and Inspire call it the slide. So if you don't have the organ that I just mentioned, then it probably says portamento, okay? And I'll explain what that is in a minute. And I have those two sounds on together. Now I have, for me, I like the keyboard touch or the dynamic keying on. All right, now I'm going to come back to this in a second. Let me just explain some of this, what I just said. Because after the first setup, you're going to find that everything else is a matter of one thing at a time. So the rhythm style normally comes up like this, which is pretty. By the time you're done setting it up like I just told you, it's going to sound like this. Isn't that pretty? And it's much softer, so it might even sound kind of softer, and that's because I have the volume set, so as I get to the bigger sounds, it doesn't kind of distort and crackle, okay? So there's the difference in that setup. Now, on the top keyboard, I have a flute setup, okay, but I do not use it. It's there when it's time. It's there. On the bottom keyboard, I have a flute and a theremin. Now, anybody know what a theremin is? It's a very interesting instrument. I had someone send me a video once. It's basically it's about this big, and you create pitches of sound. It creates the sound based on how you put your hand on it. I don't know if it's the heat. I don't think so. I think it just picks up how closer you get to your hand. No, it's not. I don't think it's the body warmth, because I saw someone send me a video and this lady played a whole classical piece with an orchestra behind her, and it was her hand move up. So imagine if this was the theremin. By moving her hand closer or not close, it picks up how close her hand's in. You have to do it just right to get the right pitches. It's fascinating. Just look it up sometime. I might have to. Theremin. 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 And it sounds like this. I'll put it on by itself. So if you waved your hand over it, and it would move the notes up and down. So what I did was I combined that with the flute. And so when we start off, isn't that pretty? Just the flute and the theremin combined. Now, on the setup, for those of you who want to get a little bit more advanced, when you go to our Patreon, this will be printed. You'll notice on the right-hand side, I'm not going to go into detail right now, okay? This will be, but you'll see it starts off with the same thing. And it says touch here to edit style, and it says if you have these models, this is what you touch, and if you have these models, you touch here. What I did is I basically turn off all of these items in the background, okay? But more importantly, this gives you an effect here, and it says special effects for the flute and theremin. Oop, typo, there we go. Press the feature clear button, scroll to page 4, and it tells you to hit this effects button. And then on the screen, it tells you that you can edit these delays and echoes. Now again, I'm not going to go through it in detail. I just want you to kind of know that it was done. Now, essentially, if I do what I just said, if you don't have it, it doesn't sound terrible. Sounds pretty, right? But what I did is I took these sounds and I added this what's called delay. And the delay takes the notes, and if you just tap it, you really hear. Now you hear how it's kind of echoing there? Now, you would say, well, wait a second, that didn't sound right either, does it? But it's very clever, because when you play the notes together, they don't go ta 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 ta. They kind of blend a little bit and they carry. And then when you have the background going, it disguises the echo and it carries the notes out. So it's kind of a fun little thing to do. So those will be up on the Patreon site, and I'll flash it a few times here. If you go into the screen, it'll tell you, go to the feature, go to page 4, select. It tells you exactly what to select. It tells you what to select on the screen. You hit the delay options, and then it tells you select edit, and then it tells you what to put in the screen there. Now let me just flash it up on the screen here. Again. Hold that thought. So if you look here, you'll see it tells you step by step. Press feature, scroll to page 4, select effects. You want to push this button and that button on. Okay, then it says select delay. Then you hit edit, and then you put these numbers there. So it tells you step by step. Okay? And then it tells you again step by step what to do here. All right? So if you do this, you'll get that effect. And once I have it set, then I don't have to go back and change it anymore. All right, that's the advanced settings. The basic setup is over here, and then we're going to play that part. Now, before I explain number 2, I have to go back to number 1. So on number 1, all you hear is in the background the bells. And that's coming from that Genie or Basic. Okay? Now on number 2, when I get to number 2, it's a very subtle, gradual build-up change, but listen very closely to it, okay? Here we go. Here's number 1. It says just add Orchestra Plus. That's the basic version. On the advanced version, it tells you to put Orchestra Plus 1 on, okay, on the screen. But listen closely now. Could you hear it? A little harp came in there, didn't it? A little harp. All right, now the advanced settings is if you do the advanced settings, what happens is when you pull up the screen here, your edit, for those of you who have the screen, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. Let's see if I can, I'm going to make you dizzy for a minute. Okay, folks? Be prepared. I'm warning you. Let me change the view for the students here so they can see this. Oops. Should spotlight me here. Here we go. All right. Can you see the screen there, folks? Now I can't see you, so somebody acknowledge.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
See what it says music box, harp. Okay, that's the advanced settings. So you'll notice that when I go from preset 1 and I set up my second setup, all I did was turn on Orc plus 1 there. And that gives me the harp sound. Now you're going to see it again. Listen to the background. When I go to 3, you hear how it gradually comes in? And then number 4, the last one comes in along with some other stuff. Okay? So, when you see the advanced settings flashing up on the screen, I don't know if I have it back in the right place here or not, but well, hopefully we do. When you see this, when you see that flashing up on the screen, you'll know what the difference is. Uh-oh, I lost Sean. Now I gotta do multitasking here. So let me pull this back up. Okay, so here's the basic setup, and it tells you just add Orchestra Plus. If you're doing the basic, you won't change it to number 3. If you're doing the advanced setting, it's the same thing, but you'll see it tells you to just add Orchestra Plus 1. On this setup, we're just adding Orchestra Plus 1, 2, and 3. Okay? And what's going to happen is this. So I'll play a little bit of the first setup. Here's the second setup. Listen closely. Here's number 3. Can you hear the subtle build up? Again, here's the 3 presets. The first one, here number 2. So what happens is it slowly builds up with this beautiful sound on the lower keyboard there. Okay? So far so good. Now, just a little something fun for you to do. I'm gonna do this sometimes, and sometimes I don't. Here's the music. Okay. So right here, you'll see da 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 da. I actually throw in an A minor in here somewhere. Let's see if I can. I just do it naturally. Let me see. Not here. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually throw in an A minor. Oh, I actually put it on the music. That's why. Is it on this music here? Second page. Oh, there it is. Right here. Oh, so I already put it in there for you. I thought I didn't put it there. Second page. It actually says it should say it on your music already. So you'll see I threw it in a couple places. Okay? Those are optional. If you see the A minor there, all right, and you don't play it, it's okay. You could actually do it here too if you want. On the first page, you see where this has the C chord right here? If you throw in an A minor, you can throw it here. First page, 1, 2, 3, the fourth measure. The measure after the, if you want, you could always do this, folks. A minor. Right there. See? Let me enlarge that. I don't do it
Robert,
all the time, but
I have a question.
who's
Your
that?
notes are
Sue?
different than mine.
What's that?
Your notes are different than mine. I don't know why. For Easy Play, on the first page, it says EGAB. That's not what yours says.
Did you print the music I sent you, or did you print?
No, it's in my book.
Oh, well, that's why. Because sometimes
Oh, okay.
sometimes I don't know why I had the question once, and my answer was I don't know. Sometimes you'll find songs in different keys. Like for example, I originally learned Jingle Bells in the key of F, and
Uh-huh.
I knew it so well that when we introduced it in our Conductor Magic in the key of C, it was actually hard for me to play.
Yeah, that's what Dawn was saying about one of our songs.
Yeah, it's very common.
Okay.
In the email that I sent today, there's a box that says click here for the music. If you click there, you'll get this version, and it has all these notes on it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So, so what I'm telling you now about the A minor, don't add it to your music. Because if it's in a different key, it's not going to work. Okay? But on this particular key, because it's in D minor or in the key of F, you can add this A minor after. Sometimes I play it, sometimes I don't. It's a little fun thing to do. Okay? Now, let's go back to the notes. I'm going to put the simple version up here. Where is it? Where did it go? I think, no. Hope I didn't close it off.
Oh, if D minor then is the key of F.
It is.
Okay.
Let me pull up my notes again for you folks. There it is. All right. So, after we do all of this hoopla here in the beginning, basically, you want to save it to A1. On A2 and A3, I add Orchestra Plus, but really what I do is I add Orchestra Plus 1, and then on A3 I add Orchestra Plus 1, 2, and 3. And it's a gradual. Okay? Now, on number 4, I turn on the auto bass, and then I play the song on the upper keyboard. Okay? So, here's the music again. I wonder if I can fit this on. See if I can make this so it's 2 pages. You bear with me. I'm trying to make this show up 2 pages on one, but it doesn't want to. Okay. Oh. Where'd it go? I know you are all computer experts, but I'm not, folks. All right. Well, sorry. This is not working the way I want it to. You know what? I'm going to do it the old fashioned way. So I have page 1, 2, and 3 here. Okay. And so preset 1, preset 2, preset 3. And then I'm going to come back and play 4, 5, and 6. And all I do are some simple things. The first 3 you saw, all I did was some very subtle changes. When I go to number 4, all I do is I turn on the auto bass and I play on the upper keyboard. And remember, we had the pan flute on. And again, remember, I changed the delay on it. So the pan flute does this. Well, that's a little bit much, isn't it? But when you're playing it, it's not. Listen. So I'll play the last part of the number 3. Here's number 4. Here, listen to the bass. Here we go. And it's very subtle. Well, I better stop there. Getting carried away playing the song. So the flute has a lot of delay to it when I'm playing. What's fun about it, if you want to be courageous and try adding little notes to it, you can do stuff like this. Now, how I do that, simply, the first way to do it is just play the notes that are in that chord. Okay, now a lot of people get so focused on, oh my gosh, I have to play it on time. No, you don't. Sometimes I just add as many measures as it takes to. And when I'm ready to pick up where I left off, okay? Now, you'll notice that this setup, because of the sounds, it's a very slow, gradual pickup. And what did I do? Well, let me put it up on the screen for my peeps here and for all of you. 98. It sounds slower, but it's not. Let me see. Nope, it says 98. Waltzes at 98 is about normal. Screen share, it's a waltz. Lullaby is a waltz. No, the style called lullaby, which is a waltz. Lullaby is the waltz. It's a waltz style, but it's called lullaby. And they group it in the waltz category, but if you scroll through your organ and you find a style called lullaby, it's not going to say lullaby waltz. So not everybody will know that it's actually a 3/4 unless you select it. All right, so back up here. So I did the first 3 setups that I explained. On number 4, all I did was turn on the auto bass. On number 5, I bring in the drums, and all I did was add an 8-foot strings tab. So basically you're going to turn on the drum, and I said about 75%. And all I did was add an 8-foot string tab to the flute that I'm playing. So it goes from this sound to this. Okay? And then that's number, yeah. Right. And then on number 6, all I did was turn on drum variation. And listen to this. Very subtle. The drummer changes a little bit. Hear the difference? Go back to number 5. Now listen to number 6. I've played this song. Now, the arrangement that I'm doing, I've tweaked a little bit from what I normally do, but I've played this arrangement many times over the years. And after I'm done playing it, a lot of people think I've done a lot of work for this arrangement. All the work's done on the first setup. The rest of it is turn on auto bass, turn on drum, add 8-foot strings. Now, I did make a little note there, and I put it in red just so it stands out for anybody who has a marquee, grand marquee, and aria. On this setup, you can alternately use AOC harmony with a cascade. Now, when you hear me playing this, it's going to be very subtle because I have strings on. It's not going to stand out a lot. And as you know, the cascade feature, all it does is it takes the notes that you're playing and it adds the other 2 notes. Now, because AOC represents 3 notes, okay, it's going to play the note that I'm playing and then add 2 or 3 other notes to it. So listen closely. Here we go. Oops. All right. Here, it's very subtle. Now, you could barely hear it there, but I could hear it a little bit. But that's what I didn't want so much happening that it takes away from the melody. I'm going to take the flute off, and you hear just the string. Now, listen. And I intentionally did it to where it was very subtle. So when you use it, you hear the flute, you hear the strings, and then you hear just an extra note or 2 come in. Now here's number 6, just a drum variation. Okay. Now, let me put up here the last 3 setups, and you'll notice on both arrangements, number 7 says simply, turn on your drum variation, alter style, and then I add a 8-foot flute. On number 8, I add a 16-foot flute tab. You'll notice that on number 6 and 7, I do not have the cascade feature on. For those of you who have it, there's a reason for that. The way the notes are being played and during those presets, it's overkill. On number 8, I bring it back in, but with a 4-part harmony. Now I'm going to leave that up, and then I'll play that part. And number 9, it says add 4-foot strings. So essentially what happens is on number 6, it sounds like this in the orchestra. Now watch what happens when I basically 7 goes back to the beginning of the song. Listen to the background. Now we have the sleigh bells coming in. Okay? And then I added an 8-foot flute just to give it a little bit more of a pickup. So here's 6. subtle on the cascade. Now listen to number 7, how it blends in. Number 8, I add a 16-foot flute and 16 strings rather. Now, since I have that up on there, I made one little error that I'm going to correct and add 16-foot strings. This is key here. I'm going to underline that. So if you're watching, that's going to give you the big sound. And again, I have the cascade feature on here. Now, the last thing I do, this is a little secret for you. If you ever have some string sounds on or anything on, and you just want something really to get big, add these 4-foot strings. Okay? And listen, this is what happens.
Where are they located?
On all of the Lowry models, besides the Marquis and the Aria and the E series, they're located in with your tabs. There's 3 right here. Okay, so if you have this style instrument, they're right here.
Okay.
16, 8, and 4, they're yellow. On these models, they're right in the screen, 16, 8, 4, they're the yellow ones. So anytime I say 16 or 8-foot or 4-foot strings, that's where those coming from. They're coming from here or in the screen, depending on the instrument you have.
Okay.
Okay? Now listen to the difference. Here's the preset number 8, and I'm going to go to number 9. The number 9 is just going to add the 4-foot strings, and let's see if you could hear the difference. Just fills it up a little bit, okay? Now the 4-foot strings and the 6, all they are is basically they're an octave apart. Let me put on just the strings by itself. Okay, so here's a C note with a 16-foot string. If I put on the 8 and I turn off the 16, it's almost like I'm playing up an octave. Watch. See? When I put on the 4, it's almost like I'm playing 2 octaves apart. So it would sound like this, but I won't have to play up there. It'll do that. So essentially, when I have 16, 8, and 4, I have 3 of them on, and they're doing this with one finger. See if I could pull this off. Now, you don't have enough fingers and long enough to be able to do that and then play the sound, so you'd have to do this. Or you just put 16, 8, and 4 on, and if you use harmonies on there, like if you do an AOC, which is 3 notes, you're essentially getting 9 parts. Listen. So it really fills it up. So number 8 is... gives you a big sound in there. Now, at the very end on the music, I made a note, and I mentioned this earlier. I said at the end, from right here, I repeat over and over until I go back to preset number 1. but I go backwards. So essentially I do 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Now, when do you press it? How fast do you do it? How slow is entirely up to you. Okay? But essentially what you're going to do is I'm going to finish the last few notes. See that? Now, I'm going to do the whole thing now. And then you're going to really see, because what I do is I end up on the bottom on the last preset on the bottom keyboard. And then I'll use the ending so it ends like that. Isn't that pretty? Now, before I play the song all the way through so you could hear it in entirety, there was one thing I forgot to put here. Save it on my preset so when you guys get it. Memorize B, let us set up. A couple notes that I want to tell you. First of all, if you're downloading the presets from our Patreon, okay, the A group of presets do not have the cascade. They're all programmed on the B bank. Okay, just for your marquee, Grand Marquee Orientals, just kind of a note. And I have the note right here too to remind you. So everything's the same, but the A bank won't turn on the cascade features. Okay? If you're downloading my presets, all right? I made one little note here.
Robert, do we play all of the presets then on the B bank if we have a marquee?
You can use either one, but the B bank will turn on the cascade on number wherever it's at.
Okay.
Otherwise, they're going to be the same setup. Okay? If you're using the A bank, this cascade won't turn on, but all the other setups will be there. Okay?
Okay.
Better hit save. Now, I'll post these up sometime probably this weekend. Now, before I go on, does anybody have any questions about anything I've taught today? I mentioned a lot of features. I mentioned editing the screen. Okay. The delay feature. Again, these notes are going to be posted on our Patreon site, so you could just download the notes. And then here's the cool thing about the notes is I actually, when I typed it out, I put my computer right here next to the organ, and then I did step by step, and I typed it step by step. So if you turn on the organ and you do step by step on all the, after you set up your sounds and the rhythm, if you do the editing, you'll get the same delay, you'll get the same, the background, everything will be set up the same.
Mhm.
Okay? But any questions?
Yes. The
Who's that?
drum on
Who's
the
that?
first page of the basic, Sue Kelly.
Hi, Sue, you again. No, you're
I'm
you're only
sorry.
allowed 3 questions. I charge after the 4th one. Go
The
ahead, ask your
drum,
question, dear.
when you turned the drums off and you went over to that, it's next to the tempo. Why did you do that? When you turn the drums off, doesn't that turn it off?
There's not an off button for the, there's not an off button. It's just a volume.
Oh, okay.
There's not an actual on-off drum.
Oh, okay, because
It's just
that's
a
all I've been
volume.
doing.
Yeah, it may look like I'm hitting a tempo, but I'm not. What I'm doing
Oh.
is I'm turning down the drums until it goes, there's no lights there.
Well, why do you have to do that if you push that drum button over on the left?
On the left,
Drums off.
there is
Yeah.
no drum off button.
Oh,
Some of you have a drum only button, but that you don't want to do that.
oh, oh,
You don't
oh.
want to do that. You want to actually, when you put on the rhythm, if you're going to turn the drummer down, you want to actually,
Just do the off button on the volume.
yes,
Okay. Okay,
okay,
thanks.
because otherwise it'll make the rest of the setting up pretty hard to do.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
why I put drum volume at 0,
Okay.
meaning just
Okay.
press and hold that till it goes to 0. Now you'll bring it back at some point based
Okay.
on the instructions.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep. Thank you.
good question. Any others?
Yes, Robert.
Who's
I-
that?
This is Connie.
Where's Connie on my screen?
Waving at
Waving her
Oh, there
hand.
she is. My phone's blocking you. Okay. I'll
Okay, the third time around, we're on A9.
Uh-huh.
So then when you go back to those last 4 measures, do you stay on A9 or wouldn't you go to A8 then? Or doesn't
Yes.
matter? A8 and then change.
Or yes.
Every measure you change?
Or yes.
Huh?
In other words, every time I play that part, it's different every time. Sometimes I'll play A9. Now, actually, when I'm on A9, let me clarify. I actually finish the song. Then I go back and I repeat it, and sometimes I'm still on A9, or I'll push 8. And I'll play a measure or 2, and then I might push A7. Sometimes I'll push 7, 6, 5, almost every measure or every 2 beats. It doesn't matter. If you have the presets programmed on the organ, as long as you're going backwards gradually and you're playing and you're able to now if you can't smoothly play the notes and hit the presets at the same time, then you do what's comfortable for you. Okay? There is no wrong to it. The goal is to go from 9, 8, 7, go backwards, and just keep going backwards until you get to number 1. The most important thing that I do for this song, for me, is when I'm on number 1, it doesn't matter if I'm on the upper keyboard or not. I make sure to play on the lower right, number 1, one more time before I hit the ending.
Okay.
That's the one thing I do. On the upper lower right keyboard. Right. So I'm going to play the song all the way through, and I think you can see well. Can you see the angle? Okay. So you'll notice when I'm playing where the hands are going and how I do it. And just when I reach up and hit a preset, just kind of follow along in the song. Okay? Sometimes when I play the song, I'll do it this way. Sometimes I'll go through it and I'll do preset 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to play it in the order that you see it. I just make sure that I end up on number 9 and then I gradually go back and I end up with number 1 and I play it down here. But for today, I'm going to play it in the order that it's on the music. Okay? Now, before I play, any other questions?
Yes.
Hold on, let me make sure this angle is good. What's the question? No, FX or fill-in is just giving you a fill-in in the background. She had a question about the effects and delay. Hold that thought. Someone here, you can't hear her. She asked about the FX or fill-in and the delay. They're two different things. The fill-in and the delay of the FX, depending on the organ you have, it's a fill-in. All it's doing is making the band do, which I do throughout the song. The delay is taking the sound I have. Hear it echoing? That's a delay. It's kind of, well, when you play the notes, it smooths it out. The FX, there is no difference. The FX is the band, the fill-in. The delay is this. Right, but it won't do that while you're playing. If while you're playing, it eliminates some of the extra echo. Watch. See? That's more of like a sustain, but then when you play staccato, it does a little bit of an echo effect. Okay? What was your question?
Yes, I printed the song this morning. Can I print this material that I just copied down that you already had written?
It's going to be on our Patreon site. Do you know how
I
to get?
Yes. Okay, I can print it from there.
Yeah, the reason why I don't post that or send that out is because if you notice today, I actually made some edits to it.
Yes.
So I always like to make sure that the final version is on before I post it. Because last month I did it, I had like 10 different edits. There was a lot of things that I edited, and some of it I just got inspired in the last minute. I said, well, I got to do this to it. But essentially, everything that you saw today, including the edits, will be uploaded sometime this weekend. Okay?
Okay.
So,
Well, I wrote it down, but not near as nice as you had it.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to play the song all the way through now because you heard it in bits and pieces. And I'm going to start with preset 1. Let me just, before I play it, let me just experiment with something real quick. So that works. So I have on my presets saved, A and B, 1 through 10. But I used the original background introduction, and then I switched to B1, and then it cut it down. So that's what I said earlier. But this time I'm going to actually do it from the beginning of the edit. Okay? All right, here we go. Give me 1 second, folks. Jerome's playing music up front, but because the beginning's so soft, I want to make sure they hear it properly. You guys will hear it no matter what. Here we go. Well, there you are, folks. Hopefully that worked out okay. That sound okay over here?
That was beautiful.
I've got the 3 strongest critics right here. Phew, I passed the test, and a bunch of them
But-
online too. Well,
Robert, what notes did you play at the very end there? You just played like 3 notes or something after that?
oh yeah, did. So at the very end, I end up on this D note, right?
Mhm.
And then I held the note while the ending was playing, and then I just gradually did the D minor 7th chord on the way up. So it went like this. F, A, D minor, and then the 7th. And that was it.
Very pretty.
So if you set it up the way I said it, and you download the notes from the Patreon, you'll pretty much get it very close to that. Now, if you get the presets, because I put them on there, you'll get it identically. Okay? Well, we have all sorts of fun things happening throughout the Fletcher world, in your local areas, online. Stay tuned in. We've got some really cool things that's going to be happening next month, both in store and virtually. And of course, you know, today is Black Friday weekend, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, that's okay. You know, we have Black Friday sales too. So make sure to reach out. I don't know if you saw it, but I sent an email out last night. Okay, it was a real special email. It just simply said up to 50% off. Call your PA, contact your PA for details. All right. Now, if you think because you're at the very top, you have an aria, just remember, if your house is big enough for an aria, you might have room for another one in another room. There's nothing wrong with having more than one. My daughter one day, she was walking around, she says, "Daddy, why do you have so many guitars?" I said, "Because I want them." Guitar is hanging all over throughout my house. Oh yeah, I got 6. Yeah. Just, you know, whatever. I got keyboards, I got digital pianos, I got organs, I got guitars, I got everything. Doesn't matter. Pretty soon my house will be just a music store, but not for sale music store. Anyway, so, well, thank you. Enjoy, and we'll see you real soon. And hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great class today. And did I mention there was a Black Friday weekend sale? I just want to make sure I end on that note. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Keep playing music. And mwah!
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
everybody. See
Very
you real
good.
soon.